development engineering as a field is very interdisciplinary. There are similar undergraduate and graduate programs all over the United States and the world. Some similar programs are called humanitarian engineering. Folks with a development engineering background are working across the world to solve complex problems and are involved in global humanitarian organizations such as Engineers Without Borders and Engineers for Change. The Master of Development Engineering program at UC Berkeley is a 3-semester program that will run fall, spring, and then fall with an internship in the summer in between those last 2 semesters. The program provides training necessary to solve complex social, technical problems that the world faces today. The program responds to the demand for diverse STEM professionals who can invent, adapt, and implement technologies to benefit communities in need locally and globally. It leverages a human-centered engineering methodology, and we're currently enrolling our 4th cohort of development engineers at Berkeley.
Many of you have heard of a Master's of Engineering degree or other types of engineering like civil engineering, environmental engineering, mechanical engineering. You're probably asking yourself, how do we differ from traditional engineering programs? Well, the key component of that is something called social impact. Development engineering was designed around developing a curriculum that supported a T-shaped skill set, which you see on my right, potentially your left, which focuses on developing a breadth of skills and then going in depth in a particular concentration that you may be interested in. And so the core of what we want you to learn throughout your 15 months here in the program is problem conceptualizing and problem solving implementation for technologies in low income regions. And so let's talk a little bit about the breadth. You'll be learning things like ethics, reflection, data analysis, social entrepreneurship, and design systems thinking, which is really important to all of the different areas you might be wanting to apply these skills. Now, we have 6 concentrations, which you will potentially choose from based on your interests. And those are AI and data analytics, energy, water, and the environment, sustainable design innovations, healthcare transformations, community-based ecosystem stewardships, and then a self-design track. And these are where you are able to kind of dig in deep and understand a subset of topics that you are most interested in. So whether that be climate change within energy, water, and the environment, or healthcare methodologies, 3D printing for new medical devices, hand wash stations, which Dr. Amy Pickering will talk about in a little bit. But it's a great way to dig deep and get in-depth expertise on a topic that you are truly passionate about, but have the development engineering framework. Now let's kind of take a look at what this looks like in terms of coursework. You're here for 3 academic semesters. So starting in the fall, you will take a DevEng C200 and DevEng 203. I will let Dr. Pickering talk about DevEng C200 as she teaches that course, but DevEng 203 gives you some technical skills, either in R or Python, to kind of learn about development engineering and development engineering tactics to then take it through the rest of your coursework. And then every semester, you will be taking 2 electives that are approved for your concentration that are under the development engineering umbrella, but in various departments across UC Berkeley's campus, which really brings in that interdisciplinary component. And then in the spring, you will be taking a critical systems of development course, where you really analyze development tactics, their theories, their practices, and delve into some of the practices that have been happening throughout history in the space. And then you will also get introduced to social entrepreneurship. You'll continue taking those electives and also prepping for your summer internship, which we require in the summer between the first 2 semesters of the program and the last semester. And then as you're wrapping up the program, you will be working on applying the skills that you have used in your internship, in your courses toward the capstone project, as well as reflecting and building out a portfolio of all the skills that you have learned, which is a really, really exciting time. And then at that point, you'll be graduating and entering the workforce and working with our career and partnerships advisor along the way. And so what is in front of you is our career development timeline. You're probably going, oh my gosh, this is overwhelming. How do I get all of this done in 15 months? but I wanted to break it down a little bit for you all just because this is an important part of our program. So it's really easy to get overwhelmed with campus life. So the timeline here is meant to help you visualize your goals by semester so it doesn't seem so daunting. While you're at Berkeley, it's really important to take time away from your purely academic pursuits to connect with folks on and off campus, whether that be alumni, community members, employers, anyone that might help you along your journey. Building these relationships will allow you to better know yourself and your value in the job market, thus increasing your understanding of hiring practices in your target industries. This really helps you enhance your personal goals and your career prospects, which is really exciting considering this can help you set tangible goals for getting your dream job at the end of this program. It is important, though, to keep in mind that as soon as you arrive, you should be attending events, connecting with folks, and trying to build up your connections so that you can be ready for that internship phase in the summer and your potential job search. You will have Adrienne to help you every part of the way. She is our director of career and partnerships, an advisor much like myself to kind of take you through that journey. So you will not be going through this alone. And so I'm going to take a breath there and kind of switch it over to talking about the 40 plus faculty that make up the development engineering graduate group. And so our graduate group is comprised of interdisciplinary faculty across UC Berkeley's campus. I'm going to talk about 4 today, and then I will turn it over to Dr. Pickering to talk about herself and her research. But it's really important that you know that there's a full group of folks here to support you outside and inside of the Blum Center, which is where the development engineering is housed in. And so first off, I am going to talk about Dr. Matthew Potts, who is with Environmental Science Policy and Management. He is also the S.J. Hall Chair in Forest Economics. And so his work focuses on increasing the speed and scale of climate action, combining top-down data-driven approaches with place-based field work to produce actionable knowledge that empowers public and private sectors to create more sustainable food, fiber, and fuel supply chains. We work with Matthew Potts a lot here in the center. He actually has an office within the hall, and so you'll see him around fairly often. And then Dr. Paolo Teodorico, he is also within the Environmental Sciences Policy and Management. And his research focuses on the role of hydrological processes in functioning of terrestrial ecosystems. And so he is currently investigating globalization of water through virtual water trade, international land investment, as well as the impact of water equity, societal resilience, environmental stewardship, and food security. He also is part of our advising committee, and so he has a great interest in helping students working on capstone projects, those types of things. And then I'll draw your attention to Dr. Dan Kamen. Dan's research focuses on energy systems sciences in the context of decarbonizing energy systems in the United States/North America. And he also works in a range of field-based programs in Africa, Latin America, Southeast Asia, and Europe. Outside of the laboratory experience, Dr. Kamen has and was appointed the first Energy Fellow of the Environment and Climate Partnerships for the Americas Initiative, and has served the state of California and the US federal government in various different expert and advisory capacities, which is really exciting because he has worked within the EPA, the Department of Energy, the Agency for International Development, which is USAID, which some of you may have heard of, and the Office for Science Technology Policy. So he really has a wide range of opportunities that he has been a part of. And then last, but certainly not least, is Dr. Cara Nelson. So she's actually the Blum Chancellor Chair in Development Engineering and also a professor in civil engineering. She's our head graduate advisor, so she is one of the main faculty that helps guide this program that you're chatting with us about today. And her research aims to develop innovative technologies and accelerate the adaptation of environmentally sustainable and sociable, equitable water infrastructure and practices worldwide. And so she teaches courses on innovation in water sector, drinking water, wastewater treatment processes, pathogen detection, and natural treatment systems. So in this is in a wide range of contexts, whether it be low or high resource communities, which is very exciting. And so now I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Amy Pickering to introduce herself, the work that she does, and the course that she teaches. And so you can take it away, Dr. Pickering.
Thanks, Valerie. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Great to see you all on Zoom. So I'm Amy Pickering, and I am faculty in the Blum Center. I also have a joint appointment in civil and environmental engineering, and I'm an associate professor. So I've been here at Berkeley now for a couple of years, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about the research that my lab does, and then I'll talk a bit about one of the core classes that I teach. That's a really fun class that you would take in your first year in the program. So in my lab, we work a lot in underserved communities, and we work with government partners and NGOs and community partners. And we focus on how enteric pathogens and infectious disease and antibiotic resistance get transmitted across humans, animals, and the environment. So we do a lot of molecular biology to track transmission of infectious disease. And then we use that information to design strategies to interrupt those transmission pathways. So our overall goal is improving global health, public health, with a particular focus on children and mothers in low resource settings. And a lot of the kind of development engineering work that our lab does is focused on water sanitation and hygiene technologies. We're very focused on trying to design scalable, financially sustainable products and services that can improve access and quality of service in low resource settings. And so we're often thinking a lot about how to set up institutional systems and what types of technologies can kind of remove the user burden on households and burden on mothers when it comes to making sure that water is safe and also other hygiene in the home. And so one example of a project that my lab works on is a low-cost water treatment device that we've been working on for some time now that is designed to automatically dose chlorine into drinking water supplies. Chlorine is a very low-cost, effective way to treat water. And this project was evolved out of the fact of why are we asking households to treat their water themselves? We should be working on technologies that can be integrated in with existing infrastructure and are also low cost and affordable. Another example is there's a photo on this slide of a hand washing station that was designed for settings that lack access to piped water. And I'll give the example of how this project really used human-centered design, which is kind of one of the key things that you would learn in development engineering courses. And the idea behind human-centered design is really making sure that you are doing user discovery and working on the right problems and meeting user demand and user needs. So really involving the community members and the target population when you're working on a solution to solve a problem in an underserved community. And so now I'll talk a little bit about the class that I teach. So DevEng 200, it's called Design, Evaluate, and Scale Development Technologies, and it's an introduction to development engineering class, and it brings together students from all over the university, and you work in interdisciplinary teams with a community partner. It can be a nonprofit organization, or it could be a research organization, or even sometimes a lab on campus. Working on a relevant problem. And usually the community partner brings a problem to the team of students in the class, and you work with that partner on developing a solution to the problem. And we cover everything from human-centered design, brainstorming, user discovery, to actual ideation and solution design and field testing, and also importantly, thinking through business models, sustainable delivery models, and if something can scale or not. So it's a really fun class, and it's experiential learning, and it I think is a nice way to get to know other students in the cohort, but also you meet a lot of other graduate students from around the university in the course. And I'll just pause there and see, Valerie, if you want me to talk about anything else or if that's sufficient for now.
I do have a non-academic question for you, but thank you for sharing a little bit about your class background. Can you actually share a little bit about what you love most about living and working in Berkeley?
Yeah, I love Berkeley. Yeah. So I actually did my master's here at UC Berkeley and fell in love with living in this area, and also with the campus itself. And there's so many great things about Berkeley, but it's got a diverse student population, but it's also in kind of a very like cultural rich area town. But there's also lots of like nature and outdoor activities around as well. And I also just love the weather too, because I love to be outside most of the year. And so I love everything about Berkeley.
Thank you for sharing. Dr. Pickering will stick around and be able to answer any questions you have either in the chat or we can ask them later if you need to say it rather than type it out. But yes, I could probably talk about Berkeley all day. I won't do that to y'all. We'll keep it to 1 minute. But I too love living and working in Berkeley. I don't know if any of you are college football fans. Maybe you can raise your hand in the chat if you watched game day this weekend. But there's always something exciting going on here at Berkeley. We have Olympians, we have Nobel Prize winners, and we are a very walkable campus. That's something that's very special about Berkeley. Not every college campus in the US is very walkable. A lot of college campuses require a car, but here you can walk to so many things off campus. And like Dr. Pickering said, the weather here is amazing. I used to live in Houston. Don't miss that weather here. It's lovely pretty much year round. A rich history here. So if you have any questions about life in Berkeley, feel free to reach out and I'll be happy to talk about it all day. All right, gonna pass it back over to Valerie.
Yeah, so what you probably all came here to learn about, besides our beautiful program, is the admissions requirements and other logistics that go into applying for the Masters in Development Engineering program. And so we broke it down really simply for you all, kind of like a checklist. We encourage you to have a 3.0 GPA. If you don't have that, please email Devenge Info. We can chat about that and kind of work through that. But 3.0 GPA is our minimum requirement. 1 to 2 years of experience on project-based learning, internships, being in the workforce, community engagement, some sort of experience doing the type of work that you would potentially be doing as a development engineer. And then you need 3 letters of recommendation. Those are to be from faculty, your supervisor, your colleagues. We ask that these aren't like family members or your best friend, but they don't all have to be faculty because we know many of you may be coming from the workforce or may have taken, maybe coming straight from undergrad, but may also be coming from a different area of your life. We also need your undergraduate transcript or your degree certificate if you are an international student. And then we have 3 written statements: the statement of purpose, the personal history statement, and the portfolio. There are plenty of examples online with the graduate division for the statement of purpose and the personal history statement. But what I want to talk about is our portfolio, which is unique to the MDevEng application. The first thing I want to preface is you should not stress about this portfolio. I know many of you are likely going, what is a portfolio? I've never done a portfolio. My field doesn't have a portfolio. My field does have a portfolio, but is that appropriate for this application? And so I'm kind of here to break this down for you. A portfolio is an opportunity for our applicants to show 3 to 5 projects and their experience with complex problem solving, critical thinking, and creativity. And so this is an opportunity and a space to think and present yourself as a designer. So you can bring anything that you were a part of designing, whether it be community work, a course project, a research artifact, any of those types of things. This can be group work, this can be individual work, this could be work with an organization. All types of projects that fall into this vein are valid if it includes complex problem solving, creativity, and critical thinking. Now, this is not a 10-page essay about the 3 to 5 projects that you're presenting. This is actually something with images. You can show us your data, you can show us charts, you can show us code, you can show us field photos, and supporting text. We want to know a summary of the project. We want to see what you've done in the field. And we want to understand this project, but we don't need it in traditional essay format. We also want your name, your contact information, and we want you to cite your sources and recognize folks you work with. And so, really simply put, again, it is not a 10-page essay. It is an opportunity for us to see your skills. We're actually working on some portfolio samples here currently. I'm hoping to have those up in the next 2 weeks. We're partnering with our current MDev students to get those up on the website. So you will have some samples coming in the next few weeks. But the couple things that I do want to flag for you that are important to not include, and kind of the only limitations, is do not exceed 10 pages. Do not include any URL links or any type of links. We cannot access them through the admissions portal. Our reviewers will not be able to click on them, review them. So this will need to be submitted in a PDF format. And again, don't stress about having the perfect portfolio. Your expertise, your projects, your thoughts, your creativity are perfect enough to make a portfolio. And then another thing that also stresses students out that we just want to knock out and really support you with is funding your MDev journey. I'm going to talk about 3 high-level funding opportunities, but we'll also have time at the end to kind of talk about advising, as this can be like a one-on-one personal conversation to talk about funding. But if you apply before our January 14th deadline, you will be considered for the MDev Impact Fellowships. These are small fellowships. They're not full rides for the 15-month program or anything of that nature, but they support our students who show the DevEng spirit. And so everyone that applies by that January 14th deadline will be considered. We also, once you submit your application, will be sending you an external spreadsheet of fellowship opportunities curated by the MDev staff. These are opportunities that we think our students would be successful at potentially receiving. Now, it's important that these are all external, that we don't have, partnerships or anything with them, but these are places that we know funding comes from and that may be able to fund your educational journey. And we understand that some of our applicants are from Sub-Saharan Africa and may be interested in the MasterCard Foundation Scholars Program. We do partner with them. We have 3 criteria before we send them over to their process, which they run entirely separate of us. And that is that you apply by the January 14th deadline. You indicate what country you're from, as there is a country requirement. And that you watch your email for communications from the MasterCard Foundation themselves here at UC Berkeley, as we do not run or have really any part of that scholarship process. We will refer all of the eligible students to them, but they run that process entirely separately. And so now I want to take a moment to talk about the last little bit of application logistics. So again, our application is due January 14th, 2025 at 8:59 p.m. here in the US. And so one thing I like to remind students is be sure to convert that 8:59 p.m. Like if you are a last minute person, make sure you know what that is in your time zone. Make sure it's January 14th. I do not suggest you wait to the last minute to submit your application. But for those of you who have other extenuating circumstances, aren't going to get to it until later in December, just know we need to have all of your application materials by that date. You will be applying through the graduate division UC Berkeley main portal. We have information about that on our apply page as well as on the graduate division website. So you will be able to, make your account and start the application through that direct portal. They will also send you reminders, but it's important to keep that January 14th deadline in your mind. And before I open it up for broader Q&A, one really special thing that I like to do during the admission cycle, and I feel like really helps a lot of our MDiv applicants, is having one-on-one appointments. I hold one-on-one office hours with students through the Calendly link that Brittany just shared in the chat. These can be 15-minute to 30-minute sessions that allow you to talk about your portfolio, about your funding, about the program itself, about our concentrations. No topic is off limits. I do some application review. Obviously, I'm not able to, review all of your essays beforehand or things like that, but I'm able to kind of help you with general tips, content, talk through ideas, those types of things. We really want to be here to support you and partner with you through this application journey. And so Brittany put that link in the chat. You can also email me. I know time zones are very difficult. So devinginfo@berkeley.edu is a great way. If you don't see a slot that works for you or your time zone, we can work out something. But with that, I'm going to turn it back to Brittany and we're going to kind of open it up for question and answer. We'd really love to chat with you. We're here to answer your questions and we appreciate you coming to our session today.
Yeah, feel free to come off mute if you would rather ask the question rather than have to type it out.
So basically, in my undergrad, I don't particularly have a quantitative resume, or I didn't have very quantitative heavy courses. So I was wondering if that was a particular requirement for this particular program, or if there's any additional courses I need to do to attest the fact that I have some basic understanding, before joining this program.
Yeah. So I'll answer at a high level. I know Dr. Pickering will definitely have like some tips potentially, but we do look for about 2 semesters of technical skills, and this can range depending on what your undergraduate degree was in. We have had folks who had economics, and so they had a background in economic analysis, had maybe done some SPSS coding, which is a social science coding platform. We have had folks who had a background in linguistics and had technical skills in interviewing and talking to folks. But I would say having some like technical analysis piece can be tremendously helpful and is something we consider. So that's just generally, I'm going to kick it over to Dr. Pickering, see if she has any tips or things that might be helpful on the quantitative side of things. But this is also something we could chat about in a one-on-one appointment too.
Yeah, I would just say that I think it probably makes sense to set up a one-on-one appointment so we can chat about, if the program's a good fit for you based on your degree.
Yeah, sounds great. Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Allison. I had a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, so I was wondering if you could give some examples of what type of industry or jobs the graduates have gone on to after graduating from the program, and also if we need to have a clear picture of which concentration of the program we want to go into when applying, or if it's more open-ended.
Yeah, so I'll answer the concentration question first. Yes, we do ask you to pick a concentration that you're most interested in. You can also list a second one. You do not fully commit to a concentration until actually right about now. So our students that started in August are about to like formally declare their concentration. What I usually do as the student advisor is say, take a course in your number one concentration and take a course in your number two concentration in your first semester, and then kind of go from there. And so that's like my typical standard approach. But you're not locked in, based on what you put in your application. We hope it doesn't change too much because we are kind of like reviewing your portfolio based on that and certain things. But you're not going to come here and automatically be locked into that concentration. And then in terms of industries and places folks have gone, it ranges. We have seen 3 cohorts graduate at this point in time. And I know students who are at the Lawrence Berkeley lab completing research here locally. I have had folks return to their home countries and become teachers and professors in institutions in Africa and Southeast Asia. We have folks who have joined the nonprofit sector doing community housing initiatives here in the Bay Area. We have an individual at Nissan that's working on electric cars. We have a wide range of folks. There is not like one job and one outcome that fits all. And I think that's why Adrian and the career development is really important, because no one job posting is going to fit one student. And I think that is the beauty of development engineering in the field as a whole.
Thank you.
I kind of want to elaborate on Valerie's point about just like the networking that's available here. I think that's what's really, really special about this program being in person, is we do provide a lot of opportunities for networking that can be a lot harder in like the virtual space. So that's definitely a big perk of the program. I think we have about 5 more minutes where we can do questions. So feel free to ask. We're not in a rush. We're good on time.
And with Dr. Pickering teaching one of the classes, it may, like, if you have any questions about our core curriculum or kind of, what to expect in the classroom, she's a great resource for that. Myra, you can go ahead. I hope I said your name correctly.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the information. So I'm interested in research, and I know this, like, maybe I'm not all correct on this, but like, this program is more based on, what's the word for industry to go directly to the workforce. So I saw that there is development engineering, what's it called? Designated minor for any PhD program. So can you give me a little bit more information on that and how that would change from like this program?
Yeah. So the designated emphasis, you'd have to get into a PhD, any PhD here on UC Berkeley's campus. And then you would be able to join the designated emphasis in development engineering. You would be taking Dr. Pickering's class, another course on digital transformation. So it's not exactly a 1-for-1 overlap like the 6 core courses and the electives, but there is a component of it that kind of matches and would get you into this development engineering community. But the difference with that is that you have to get into a PhD on UC Berkeley's campus. And we do have students, I know Dr. Pickering can attest to this, that are working on and with her lab, but also still master's students. Like, there still is a research component to development engineering. It looks a little bit differently because we also have that professional focus. So if you want to talk about that, Dr. Pickering, you can go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to add that while this program is a professional master's program, just like a lot of the other professional master's programs at Berkeley, there are opportunities to get involved with research. And there is, of course, as Valerie described, the capstone experience as well during the program and the summer. And a lot of students also do a little bit of research during the semesters, that you can't spend the majority of your time on research because you have a full load of courses that you're taking. But I do have a number of development engineering master students that work with our lab on projects, research projects, and do get research experience. And that can be helpful too when you're going into the professional workforce, especially I think in this field where like having a diversity of experiences, not only like internships and like the capstone, but also having a bit of research experience too can be helpful.
Thank you for the information.
And then I was skimming through the chat, and there was a question about portfolios and if a portfolio can be based on the structural design projects that someone has been involved in. Yes, your work and your experience in the professional field can be part of your portfolio. Like there's no one right project to include in the portfolio. So as long as it has some like complex thinking, design thinking, and is able to be conveyed through that portfolio and that medium, it can be included. And then, yes, there are about 30 to 40 students in each cohort. So that's kind of our cohort size and who will be joining us here every fall.
I saw a question in there about cost. This is a very individual thing to answer because we do have fellowships available. So I would definitely recommend getting more into details there with Valerie in a one-on-one.
I will also drop on our website the kind of cost breakdown. So you can kind of look at that yourself ahead of time too. I'm finding that link momentarily, but that can also be helpful in kind of mapping out cost of attendance. One thing for those of you that are international versus domestic students, the great thing about self-supporting programs is everyone pays one price. So there's not an international student price, there's not an out-of-state student price, there's not a like California state, it is one price. So the price you see that I am about to drop in the chat right now is the price for everyone on this call.
Okay, hi, Brittany. Sorry, I kind of joined very late, but I was hoping to ask if you could speak a little about the self-designed concentration. I know you have sustainable design and something around AI and data, as well as water, energy, like but what does self-designed concentration, what does it really entail? If you could just speak to it from like examples of probably previous or current and dev, students in the program.
So self-design is a very selective process. The one that is coming to mind off the top of my head is we have a student that is doing a focus on human resources for nonprofits and specifically developing countries' nonprofits because there are different rules, there are different tax breaks, there are different ideologies that go into that space and the human resources needed to support employees in that sector. And so that was not something that firmly fell under any of our concentrations, but was very much in the realm of Delvenge and had a design thinking component. And that very much fit in the self-design category. So that is an example I use. The only other one that I can think of off the top of my head was a student was focusing on Indigenous communities here in the US. And they decided to make that the main focus versus the climate change component of the work that they were doing. And so we opted to put them in self-design, but they were taking courses in energy, water, and the environment because they were working with a Native nation about 2 hours north of Berkeley, and they were working with them on the climate change impacts of the lands they were living on, and the types of housing that they were using. So again, it kind of usually is like 1/4 of a concentration in a topic that we would talk about in development engineering, and then potentially a very new lens that we can't classify in one of the 5 other topics, or in the 5 other regions that we focus on.
Okay, thank you very much. I think that's helpful.
And then I'll throw in one bonus last question that I saw in the chat is, are there ongoing projects that currently involve both engineering and policy students working together to tackle pressing global challenges? I would say yes. We're very interdisciplinary. There are probably some covering this topic in Dr. Pickering's class. I know we have students in that are working with public health students on maternal and international children's policies. There are definitely a lot of work in this area. Well, the only ones coming to mind are health related, admittedly, because that's like the last student I talked to that was looking at policy and global challenges in engineering. Dr. Pickering, do you have any other examples that I are escaping my mind?
We do have a number of policy students in the DevEng 200 class, and I think policy gets kind of woven into a lot of the projects that the students are working on. Some examples are, I think, I'll just provide an example from our lab where we're working on scaling up chlorinating water supplies in India, and we worked a lot with the Indian government to incorporate inline chlorination into their national drinking water guidelines. We also work in healthcare facilities in Kenya on safe water, and have been really thinking through what stakeholders are needed to be involved in the process when you're designing, for example, an infection prevention control intervention for healthcare facilities. And I think in a lot of the projects in the class, people really think through, what information and data and evidence do policymakers really need to make decisions and to change policy. So that's definitely something we discuss a lot in the class, and that's a theme in the program.
Great. Thank you all so much for your time. Don't stress if you didn't get your question answered here today, because we do have one-on-one advising available. You can reach out again at devenginfo@berkeley.edu if you just have a quick question, and we are happy to help. Usually you'll get a response on Deveng Info within 48 hours. So if you don't hear back immediately, it's because we're doing many other things. You can also DM me on Instagram. So follow us on Instagram and ask your questions there. Valerie, do you have anything else?
No, thank you so much. And please do not hesitate to reach out. We love to chat with you all.
Thank you, everyone. I hope you have a great rest of your day or night if you're in a different time zone.
Or morning.
Or morning, yeah.
Bye, y'all.